Are you ready? Okay, good evening. So I am following my clock, which says 5:31, so I'm going to start. First, thank you so much for coming. And if we could, well, all right. So, are we set, Matt? Are we good? Okay, so first, I think before we start, let me just introduce some folks who are here with us. So the board members who are here, board members, will you stand? So we have Mr. Jaramillo here in the front, Senora Flores, Senora Dahlman, and President Frank, Vice President Dahlman, I guess I can say. So welcome. And then Executive Cabinet, will you stand? And so these are the members who work every day with me in tandem on lots of different projects. And then Ed, can we ask your Finance Department to stand as well? So Finance. So can we applaud these folks who are... So what I'm going to do with you is I'm going to talk you through a PowerPoint. You don't have to take notes. We'll post this live on the website so you can download it. And then the budget is also posted live on the website. We're also taping tonight's presentation, and then we'll have that on the website so that all the information that we're going over is there for you. And so first, I think as we start, let me just start by saying thank you to the board for your support. Thank you to the Executive Cabinet. And a big mille grazie to the Finance Department for doing all the work that I'm going to go through these PowerPoints, but you all are the true superstars. Thank you so much for the time you've put in lately in doing the budget. I know it's been a rough last month, Ed, maybe 6 weeks. Yeah. Okay, so I'll take you through. As we have welcomed you, then I want to talk to you about the budget development process and what we did to get where we are. So we're looking at the budget for the fiscal year 19, and this budget was developed through what we call transparent and collaborative approach based on recommendations provided as follows. So we looked at staff, we looked at students, we looked at community members. We had over 800 community responses, and of course we listened to any ideas from our school board. Those folks gave us information that then allowed us to develop what we call budget goals. So what were the budget goals? What are we looking to do as we look for the next school year? The first thing is we want to protect classrooms. And so you've heard me talk before about being a teacher, how important teaching is to me, and how important it is to continuously have folks in the classroom. And by that I mean both teachers and our educational assistants, anyone providing instruction. Secondly, we had to develop a balanced budget. Now, you may find this hard to believe, but when the Executive Cabinet put our wish list together, we were very happy. And we stayed that way all weekend until Ed told us it wasn't balanced. And so we do have a responsibility to the taxpayers, and we have a responsibility to the students to give you a balanced budget. But we have to do that with input from multiple stakeholders. And then we also have to maintain an adequate cash reserve. And I'll talk you through tonight as we go through this project what we have done with our cash reserve. So cash reserve is the money you're supposed to have on hand that will meet the payroll for your department or your division or your school system or your company. And so for us, our payroll is approximately $14 million a month. And when you study finance, those textbooks say that you should have 2 months in the bank. So all the finance people would be very happy if we had 28 million in the bank at all times. This is to keep checks from bouncing. This is to keep all cash flowing. And this is to make us look very secure with what we call our bond ratings. So in the private world, it's when you and I get our credit scores when we open American Express or Discover card. So for us, we decided not to have that high of a cash balance. We decided to use the funding in the cash balance. And so for this year, the budget we're going to present to the board. Now remember, this is the budget that we give a recommendation, but the board has final say-so over the budget. We're going to bring the cash balance down to $5 million. So last year we kept it at $7 million. So to the chagrin of some of the colleagues in the finance division, we think we can do this. And we're doing what's right for kids because we're keeping dollars with children, which is what we should do. After our budget goals, we looked at what are the budget priorities. So first, we have a salary increase for teachers that's an average of 2.5%. And that was given to us by the legislature, and we're most appreciative of that, and we intend to fully comply with the law. Teachers deserve that, and they deserve more. We also had a minimum salary requirement for levels 1, 2, and 3 to add $2,000 to get to a certain threshold. So we added those into the salary schedules. And then all other employees, according to the legislature, was to receive an average of 2%. We also went one extra step. And in this district, we decided to give all district employees a step increase on the salary schedule. And so that step increase is somewhere around 1.1, 1.2%, depending on where you are on the salary schedule, what your range is, what your position is. So all employees are going to receive the salary increase by the governor and by the legislature. They're going to receive the $2,000 if they meet those thresholds. They will also, all other employees will receive 2%, and then we added in a step increase. All of that work is now going into our salary schedules, which will be published live on the web so that all of our employees can see that. We won't do that until the board formally adopts the budget. The other thing we wanted to do was the board had requested, could we have 10 days to look at the budget? They wanted a minimum of 2 weeks to study what we've done. So we gave the board the budget, help me Ed, last Tuesday. So the board has the budget, and that's the same budget you see posted online. So everyone has access to that. And then we are taking appointments. We're meeting with board members. We're listening to their questions. And then we will come back in front of the board and this audience on June 5th. We will go through that budget one more time with them. We will take any questions they have. And then we will formally ask the board to approve that budget. We get the approval on June the 5th, and then we send the budget to the Public Education Department, and we seek approval from them there. So in the process now, we're unveiling the budget at the town hall. It's already been on the web page. The board members have it, and then next week on June 5th, we'll ask the board for a formal vote. Continuing our budget priorities, we look at school, site, safety, and security. So I'm pleased to announce to you, after a lot of work, a lot of discussion, and a lot of negotiations, we were able to create a budget that we're going to present to the board that now places a security guard in every single school in the district. And this will be the first time that we've done that. Oh, thank you. I'm also pleased to tell you that as we built the budget, we're going to have some security guards who work night. So the night security guards will check our buildings at night, and you only have to read the paper to see that vandalism occurs at night. Alarm calls go off at night. So we want folks to be able to come out and respond to those alarm calls who are true law enforcement professionals Right now, our principals, are there any principals in the audience? So our principals are responding to alarm calls at 2, 1:30, 3 in the morning, and then they're showing back up at 7 to start school all over again. So as the budget is presented and rolled out, we will look for night security officers to patrol the district, to protect our property, and to protect our schools. Our other goal is to maintain all filled positions in the district. So any position that we're placing in the budget, we're allowing that position to be open, and for human resources to post those openings as administrators give them the information they need. So in the past, we had positions that we didn't fill, and we used those non-filled positions to create the cash balance. We took a different approach. We wrote in a line item of $5 million for cash balance, and then we said every position in the budget can be filled. This way, when I say to you, we have X number of teachers, we truly have that many positions that we can fill. Or if I say we have X number of custodians or educational assistants, we truly can fill each and every one of those positions. We've also looked at our assistant principals at the elementary and middle school. So currently, assistant principals at the elementary school were only funded a half a day. We're now going to fund those to be full day, as well as in our middle schools. And so those of you who have worked in a school, you only have to be in a school building one day to know what principals and assistant principals do. So we carry radios and we respond to incidents, and we provide support to teachers. We provide support to students, and we provide support to parents in the community. Continuing our budget priorities, looking at our student to teacher ratios, we have divided elementary schools 22 to 1. So we divided for every 22 students, we would issue one teacher. For middle schools, we divided at 25 to 1. And for high school, we divided at 25 to 1. Once we did that, we then added in special education, PE, and fine arts teachers as above and beyond. So those are extra allotments going into the school. We also created an allotment pool to address any possible increases in enrollment so that we don't have to move teachers and collapse classes once school has started. Now, when I give you these numbers, if only children came in bundles of 22 or bundles of 25. So I'll give you some simple scenarios. Let's say you're a high school and you have 100 students. 25 to 1 would mean you get 4 teachers. But what happens when you get 110 students? Because now you're over the threshold, right? What happens when you're a high school principal and you begin to balance your schedule and every kid takes Algebra 1, so you have those classes at 25, they all take geometry, you have that at 25. But what happens when 13 kids sign up for calculus? We want that course to be offered. So then we say offer the course, but then that makes those other course numbers go up. So these are general numbers, and then we have our folks in teaching and learning division who work with principals on scheduling so that we can optimize whatever the allotments are that we have. Next, I just wanted to show you what some of the funding looks like. So from the general fund, you're going to see our operational dollars coming out, and we give us a total here. And if you can't read these, you can go online. All of this you can print, and so you can see. We have our transportation dollars and our instructional materials. So you begin to see operational at $196.8 million, transportation at $4.3, instructional materials at $812,000. So we're at $202 million. I do need to tell you, as we were building the budget, the district was short $1 million in allocations from the public education department to give the raises to teachers that were mandated by law. So we had to use $1 million of our own dollars to meet those raises for all employees. When we look at transportation, we were short $1.5 million in what it cost us to run the transportation versus what the transportation budget is. And if you talk to any bus drivers, are there any bus drivers in the audience? So if you talk to any bus drivers, try driving home tonight and not using your air conditioning and leave your windows up. That's about the temperature in the buses in the summertime. And we have buses that are not air conditioned. So we continue to ask our friends in the legislature if there's a possibility of someone looking at additional funding to air-conditioned buses. And for us in the southern part of the state, you can imagine August and September are hot months for us, as well as May. We then have special revenue funds, so food service, and I see our food service folks back there. So can you believe we get $18.6 million for that wonderful food that you make every day? And I know students appreciate that because we hear from students that some of them, the only meal they get is breakfast and lunch at school. And so we use that as best we can for every student in the district. Athletics, is Ernie in the back of the room? So Ernie's over here. So Ernie comes in at $1 million+ dollars. We always go look to see what his gate receipts are after every event. And then non-instructional support, we get $2.3 million. Then when you look at our capital project funds, you're going to see our bond building phase 2 at $23.3 million, our special capital outlay, House Bill 33, Senate Bill 9. And then all of that totals up, and you'll see the $54.2 million there. And then we get grants, and we're very appreciative of these grants. We get federal flow-through grants, which means the grant money goes to Santa Fe and then it flows through to us here. And that totals $18.7 million. And is Erlinda in the room? So this is the money Erlinda claims in her pocketbook every year and is very stingy in releasing to us. This is the federal money. And this federal money comes with massive guidelines of what you can use it for. Then we get federal direct funds of $9.1 million. Then we have state flow-through funds and state direct funds. So I'm going to take you to the next page and begin to show you what some of these look like. If you look at our operational funds, you begin to see the $196.8 million. You see the transportation at $5.1 million. You see our food service, our athletics, and our activity funds coming in at $22 million. You see our federal flow-through funds, which are the ones that come from PED, at $18.7 million. This is in red because this is going to change. The federal government hasn't given us all those final figures yet. This is our estimation. Our federal direct funds, this is Head Start, Medicaid, and SNAP. This is where the federal government gives us the money directly, and that's at $9.1 million. So Head Start, are you here? Dr. Roberto, are they here? No? Okay, there they are. So Dr. Arteaga is in the back, and you only have to ask her. And we could say to her, is $9.1 million enough? And she's going to say no. Then our state flow-through, our K3 plus, our New Mexico pre-K, and our truancy officers in the district, that comes in at $3.7 million. Then I'm going to show you our local spaceport. If you've been to our Teaching and Learning Center, you begin to see some of that at $1.2 million. Our bonds, Senate Bill 9, House Bill 33 at $54 million. And then our debt service, this is where we sell bonds and we use that money to do building infrastructure and many other things. Look at Las Cruces High School, look at Hermosa Heights, look at any building that we've done something with, and that's $36.9 million. The most important thing you can understand as you look at all of these categories, the money is all in a silo. Each silo is restricted, and each silo comes with a book of rules and regulations that we must follow. So it's very easy to look at the 10,000-foot approach, but when you really get to the narrative of each of these, they require some very specific rules and regulations, and that's why we have individuals in charge of each of these different projects. Now I'll take you to our federal flow-through funding. So Title I, we received $9 million in the district. IDEA, so Glenda's back there somewhere, our Assistant Superintendent of Special Student Services, at $8 million. And I can again ask Glenda, and I can ask Dr. Lozano, is that enough? And they absolutely, she's already shaking her head no, because we need more. But this is what we receive from the feds. Title II, this is how we can improve teacher quality. That's at $1 million. I will ask you to continue to watch what the feds are telling us. So the feds are suggesting that the Title II funds possibly go away in the future. So then there would be no money left for teacher training if that were to occur. Title III funds, this is for our English language learners, and it's only $254,000. So there's not a person in the room who's going to think that's enough to work with any group of students who comes to us as second language learners. Our Title I Part C, these are our migrant students. So these are students whose parents work out in the farms, they're picking the fruits and vegetables, they're working a very arduous life every day, and they move quite frequently because they move where the seasonal work is. And the federal government gives us $96,000 a year to work with those students. And so for us, it's very important to work with them. And Dr. Lozano, can I use you as an example? So Dr. Lozano tells us he grew up as a migrant student. And we love to get him in front of the students and say, look, he has a PhD now. He was a teacher, an assistant principal, a principal, and now he's an associate superintendent. So we can put these funds to great use and produce productive citizens to society, but obviously $96,000 is not enough. Our Perkins grant, this is for our career and technical vocations. We have $270,000 a year. We use this to train teachers to work in career tech programs, and look at Dr. Wendy in the back of the room, and her division works with this every day. And then the McKinney-Vento, the homeless education, we come in at $45,000. Now, if you've ever been to any of our meetings, what we'll say is that there are 600 plus homeless students in the district. But remember what the definition of homeless student is. So you may be living in in a hotel room. You may be living with another family. You may be temporarily in a shelter somewhere. So we still have 600 out of 25,000 displaced students. And we certainly need more funding than what we're seeing here to work with those. And that work all goes through Dr. Lozano's department, and we have folks who work with those homeless students. I also have to say, just from my own chair, so we had an example a few months ago where a school called us and said, we have 2 high school students who are in need of immediate assistance. They're living in a car. And so when that call came in, we immediately started working from this building. I reached out to the board reached out to the mayor, that mayor reached out to the city council. We all sort of circled up, and I'm happy to report for those 2 students, we were able to find housing, we were able to find a bed, we were able to find a couch, we were able to get something close to the school where they were. And I want you to think for a minute, they were using the gym showers for their daily shower, and they were simply eating the food that you guys produce with that $18 million a year, and that was it. Their only food each day was your lunch and your breakfast. And so we know that that is a real issue. As we continue the federal direct funding, we have a Head Start program, $2.7 million. We have Medicaid coming in at $6 million. We have Health and Social Services at $104,000. Impact aid for special education students at $15,000. This is where the special education department can buy certain types of equipment or items for students. It can't be used to fund a person. And then from food stamps, nutrition at $71,000. And so this federal direct funding comes in at $9.1 million. Now we have some other major funding. So our transportation, as we talked about before, $4.3 million. Food services at 18.6, athletics at 1 million, New Mexico pre-K at 718, K3 plus at 2.998, and spaceport at 1.2. So what do we do with all of this money? So we've told you what it is, we've told you what the categories are, we've looked at what's coming in based on what the category is, and we're just trying to show you, the public, what those exact dollar amounts are. But then what do we do with it? So the first thing we do is we look at our funding and we ask ourselves, how much do we have? And then what are the fixed costs for the district? So think through with me for a minute, what would be fixed cost? Electric bill, gas bill, water bill, phone bill, internet bill, all the things that we use to operate buildings every day. And so I'll give you a quick story. In the summertime, we shut all buildings down Friday, Saturday, Sunday because of air conditioning, the cost of air conditioning, especially in New Mexico in the heat. So we looked at one of our high schools, and we wanted to know what was the air conditioning bill for just one high school building in August. And that bill was over $50,000 for the month. So can you imagine receiving a $50,000 power bill? So just shutting down for one extra day allows us to turn everything off all weekend long. So we take all of those fixed costs and we subtract it from our total dollar amount. And then that tells us how much money we have. And then we start looking at positions. But I want you to think for a minute, when you think school, and I'm the worst at saying this, I think school is comprised of teachers. I use the word all the time. I describe myself as a teacher to anyone I meet, and I'm proud to do that. So the school is comprised of more than just teachers. We have teachers, we have educational assistants, we have principals, we have assistant principals, we have central office staff, we have physical plant employees, we have our food service employees, we have our bus drivers, we have our custodians. So we have a plethora of different divisions, and each one of those has a pay scale, and each one of those is driven by collective bargaining agreements that we've set up with our 2 unions. And so all of those have wages and salaries built into them. So when we look at the total dollars we have, the next thing we start looking at is what we call allotments. An allotment is a physical person. How many allotments can we have? So how many teachers can you have in a school building? How many custodians can you have? How many assistant principals can you have? And we're trying to use a formula approach so that it's fair and consistent throughout the district. And that formula approach allows us to be very transparent. And so what we do, and what we started this last year, is we started publishing what the staff allocations are for each building in the district. And we did that by job classification. So as you study these, I'll tell you where that it can get confusing. Remember my scenario? We have 100 students, and we divide by 25, and you get 4 teachers. When that school goes to 110, then when you divide by 4, now you need another half of a teacher. So then we issue another half of an allotment. And even a half-day teacher, if any of you have ever worked that schedule, they still work full day, right? But we still give them the authority to hire another half-day person. So when you look at these allotments, you should be able to begin to see some balance. Now, from our building, this is a major project that we're embarking on. Last year, we asked all employees in the district to show up with a driver's license. We wanted to know who was on the payroll and did you really exist? So, is anyone from Louisiana? Okay, so, all right, you know what I'm going to say. So there's no more voting by dead people, right? We wanted to make sure that all of those folks on the payroll actually existed with us. We did that. And then our allotment sheets are controlled through our teaching and learning division. Why do we do that? Because that's the division that works with staff and what's best for students. So our teaching and learning division controls allotments, but our financial services division controls what we call control codes. And each position comes with a control code. So right now we're in the midst of matching up a control code with the number of allotments. So if we told a principal you get 52 teachers, then he should have or she should have 52 control codes. And so we're just making sure that we have accounted for every single worker in the district. And then we're working very hard to ensure that if you are called a teacher, that you are actually teaching students, something that you would all want us to do. And then we're looking at how many custodians someone has based on the square footage in the building. We're looking that everyone has a security guard, just a multitude of factors. So as you look through the staff allocations and as you see these, and I promise if you look on the computer, they're a little easier to read. In New Mexico, we do the 40-day count, the 80-day count, and the 120-day count. We use the 80-day count because that's found to be most reliable. We begin to look at the students there, then we divide that by our formulas, and that's how we come up with our number of teachers. So I want to take you through an exercise. The average salary and benefits of a teacher in the district is somewhere between $72,000 and $75,000, depending on what degree they have and how many years experience. That's salary and benefits. Make sure you include the word benefits, because teachers will immediately say to you, I don't earn $75,000 a year. but the benefits package is approximately 40%. So let's say that we have 41 schools and we over-projected by one teacher in every school. So 10 teachers is $750,000. 20 is $1.5 million. If I do that again, I get to $3 million. So do you see how important it is for us to be as precise as possible? And so as we look at these, we're guessing, and so we're using what we hope to call extrapolation data to say how consistent have we been from year to year, and how much can we assure ourselves and the board that whatever number we give a school, we give a school. Because I want you to think through this scenario. School starts, it's the first week of school, and we gave the school 15 teachers in an elementary building. They have assigned them kindergarten through 5th grade. And then we discover that the school really is down by 25 students. They don't come in packages of 25, and it could be 5 in each grade level. Do you see the complexity for the principal? But let's say that really occurred in one grade level. Do you know how hard it is to go to first graders after they've been with their teacher for 5 days? And sometimes we don't discover this until 6 days, and move their teacher. So it's very important for us that we get these calculations as precise as possible. So when I came, one of the rules that I instituted here in this building is that we don't move any staff after 10 days. So we have 10 days to make things right, but we really have to get better than 10 days. And the last resort is to move a teacher once they've been assigned a group of students. They don't like it. Even in high school, they just simply don't like it. So now I'm going to invite you to just simply look at the staff allocations by elementary, by middle, and by high school, and you'll begin to see. So I'm going to move, Matt, if we'll go to middle school for just a moment, it'll look a little easier. So I'll just take Camino Real at 897. You can see they have 36 regular ed teachers, a bilingual teacher. AES is the gifted, 8 special ed for 48 teachers. They have a principal, 2 assistant principals, 2 counselors, a librarian, a nurse, an EA bilingual, and then we'll continue to read over. So you can look at this for every single school in the district. And there aren't many districts that publicize this information. But we wanted to do that. Now, I can tell you the only people who study this the most are the principals, because they want to make sure that they're equal to their friends. And then if you go to the high schools, you see the same calculations coming down. And so for us, I think just for you to see, Centennial High School, we projected at 1509, Las Cruces High at 1695, Mayfield at 1448, and Oñate at 1551. Early College at 576, and Rio Grande Prep at 346. Now, I can tell you, as soon as we send this out, all the principals tell us there's hundreds of more students coming. And we know, we hear that. But what we do is we begin to look at what the trends have been in the past and where the numbers are. We know once school starts, we'll have to move out of our system those students who have withdrawn, those students who have switched schools. And remember, we're a school district where up through the end of February, you're allowed to apply for a transfer, and we've been granting those for the most part. So you can't even use the data we have in our database of where you live to project what school you may go to, because we have a lot of folks asking to go to schools where they may not reside. And they have wonderful reasons. So even our own employees will say, I want my child to work in the school where I work. And we applaud that. I mean, that for me is the best testament any teacher can say to any parent in the school building. I bring my own child into this building. That's how much trust I have in my leadership team, in my colleagues, etc. So these are the staff allocations that you're going to see. And then I'm going to take us to the last page, and I'll tell you what we would like to ask you to do, and we'll give you a little time to do this. So this is just a meeting for me to give a town hall presentation to you. It's not a publicized meeting for the board, and we have more than 2 board members in the room, which means under the Open Meetings Act, I can't engage them in any dialogue, and I can't engage them in any question and answer session. But I do promise you this. If you come next Tuesday night, they will certainly ask me lots of questions, and we will certainly be engaged in dialogue, as we should. as good stewards of the money and good stewards of representing the folks that they were elected to represent. So what we would like to do is we're going to give you some note cards. We're going to ask you to confer with the people beside you. Perhaps as we went through this, there's something that you had a question about, something I didn't cover, something you didn't understand. We're going to ask you to write these on a note card. Can you tell I'm a teacher? And then we're going to collect the note cards from you. We're going to then collate what we call a Q&A document. And then we will present those questions to the board on Tuesday night. And then we'll have answers for all those questions. And we will actually allow the board to engage us in dialogue with any of those questions. So Taryn, I'm looking back here. So can we? Okay, so can we do this? Can we take maybe 10 minutes? I'll watch the time. You can certainly have conversations with those folks around you. You can ask questions. If there's any slide you want us to bring back up, I think we can probably try to do that. If you have your own computing devices, we will have this online. So if you go home and think of a question and then look at what we have posted online, you can certainly email us anything that you might want to ask regarding the budget. And then in about 10 minutes, we're going to ask our staff to help collect any questions that you may have. We'll create that document, and then I'll close us up. So can we have 10 minutes of audience participation, and then we'll come back. Okay, so can I ask staff, would you collect the note cards? Any note cards we have? Taryn wants me to read the questions out, so I'll read them. So what I'm going to do at the request of the chief of staff, and so anyone who's been in my office, where's Jaime? We do know Taryn's in charge, right? So Taryn suggested that I read the questions so that before you leave, you know what people have asked. So I'm going to do that. Then we'll collate these questions, and then we'll produce the document online, and then we will also produce it in front of the board. But I have to be very careful. I can read the questions, and I don't want to get into dialogue, especially with our board members here, since it's not a public board meeting. But I do want us to just go ahead and tell everyone who's here what the questions might be. So Taryn, can you collect the card? No, I think it's fine, because you can hear the question. Okay, so I'm going to go through the questions, and then staff who are here, as you hear the question that pertains to your area, especially if you would jot this down, and then we'll let Dr. Wendy and Dr. Roberto create the master sheet. So the first question is, we need a monitor on buses. So where's Mr. Jaquez? So you're on it, yes? Second question, are substitute teachers in the pay increase for the district? So we'll research that. I can tell you this from our work with the budget. We are paying approximately $2 million a year for substitutes in the district. And we still receive calls from principals of positions unfilled. And that is a huge concern for us. Because if you're a teacher and you've been assigned teaching duties all day, and I'm going to speak high school because that's my world, and you have one period off every other day, and then you're asked to cover the class on your one period off every other day, that doesn't leave you any time. And so we've looked at that. We'll get an answer. The steps for classified staff, will it be by the years employed with the district? So we will certainly look at that and give you an answer there. How many teaching positions did our previous budget pay for, and how many will it cover this year? So we'll get you the exact numbers. I can tell you this. As we built this year's budget, there was an increase of 39.98 teaching positions in the budget. So we increased. That doesn't mean your school necessarily increased, but that's what we increased. And then I have to also be careful that you understand those are filled positions. So you could look at past budgets. If you want to go back 5 years and start looking at budgets, you could look at past budgets that might have a higher number, but those weren't filled positions. So what we're telling you is exactly what we can fill. And we'll get the exact numbers. Are class loads teacher to student ratio based on an average? Is it possible that a grade level or class will be overloaded through the use of this formula? Also, will there be a not to exceed rule? So Dr. Wendy will certainly get back with us. The public education department gives us class size restrictions, but then they impose the word average in there. And so we work with principals on that. And this is why it's very important that principals take all teaching positions that have been allotted to them and actually assign folks to teach students. But we will certainly pull those answers for you. Where in the budget is the money for mandated high-stakes standardized testing coming from? How much is being used in dollars, resources, staff, and time? You don't know how hard it is not to answer this. We will get you an answer. We are spending lots of money on standardized testing, and you know that's a requirement. What if Las Cruces High School is going to have the highest population of students? Is it losing an assistant principal? So that's an easy one for us to answer. I'm looking at Mr. Montoya in the back. As we looked at the budget this year, the most important thing for us was to put a security guard in every single school building. And so we added 30 security guard positions. We don't like to talk about security numbers because we don't want to show anyone our vulnerabilities. But in order to do that, when you add something, you have to take from somewhere else. Our high schools currently have 1 principal, 4 APs, 4 security guards, and a police officer. So 4 security guards, 4 APs is 8, a police officer is 9, and a principal is 10. Of all of our formulas that we looked at, for us, it looked more equitable to take 1 assistant principal from high schools and to continue placing that money in classrooms instead of 1 extra administrative position. Now, the high school principals are always going to argue that they could have another assistant principal, but we'll still have 3 APs, we'll still have 4 security guards, we'll still have a police officer, and we'll still have a principal. And we worked with Mr. Montoya on that, and we'll let him give us more answers on Tuesday night with the board. So Mike will be ready. And, school is not comprised only by teachers. School is comprised by learners. And teachers are learning every day too. I agree with that. Okay, so now, with your permission, I'm going to look at the staff. Where's Mr. Tuckes? So, any words before we close out? So if the deputy superintendent gives us thumbs up in this building, it means we can go home. So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for listening to us. We look forward to presenting this again to the board. We look forward to going over these questions and answers with the board on Tuesday night. And we look forward to any other questions you have. So all the information is posted, and we're happy to share that with you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Next Tuesday, so let me remember, that is a work session, 4 p.m. So we invite you to come at 4 p.m. here. And I would plan maybe I would like to say plan 4 to 8 p.m., but the board's going to tell me plan 4 to 7 p.m. So we'll be here. And that is election day. So vote before you come. Okay, with that, I will adjourn the meeting, and thank you very much. Have a pleasant evening.